Hey, I'm Sean,
I'm Shannon.
and we're the host of Wifey and Baby Mama. Happy
Yeah.
Thursday, family. We are honored to have you
Yeah.
joining us again this week. And before we get into tonight's episode, I just want to quickly remind everyone about our fall giveaway for the months of October, November, and December, along with the $100 Wifey and Baby Mama gives away on every third Thursday of the month. For those 3 months, we will also be giving away a copy of my novel of Love the World Should Know. And we don't want you to wait too late to get your submissions in. As October is rolling up on us quickly, so
Mhm.
get those submissions
Mhm.
in. And now that the
Yes.
business is out of the way, let's get into tonight's topic titled Daddy's Girls. Now, ladies, you know what was coming. We play fair. Shannon and I brought, I hope, what we thought some insight into the mama boys of the world on last week, as well
Yeah.
as to the mothers that's producing the mother's boys. So
Mhm.
when the time comes, for them to become men, it won't be a battle for them to grow up, or an assignment for another woman just to take them on and love them. It is our hope that our advice and mistakes that we've made along the way in this thing called life help someone
Mhm.
else along the way,
Right. Yeah.
right?
I hope so. And and I know we don't want to come off as preachy.
No,
However,
not at all.
we want you to take our experiences and whether you learn something from it and it might be a nugget that you can't use right now that a couple of years down the road you remember wait a minute, Sean said this or Shannon said that, so just file it away if you need to, or don't. You might say, okay, I just listened to you girls because I want to hear something funny or whatever, but we're hoping we get something across and not come off as know-it-alls, or we don't have degrees in this. We're not doctors of psychology or psychiatry or whatever. We're just trying to help you all learn from things that we've learned from, and we recognize our unique situation. And I know there are plenty of other baby mamas and wifeys that get along or whatever, but it's still rare. You really
Absolutely.
don't find this. So that's what we're
And
hoping and praying that you take away from
right. And while
this
you don't
podcast.
want to sound preachy, Shannon, you said you don't want us to sound
Yeah.
preachy, but if it's a word, it's a word, and go ahead and
Oh
take it.
yeah.
So
You got that.
if it's a word, it's a word. And if it ain't, like she said,
Right, right,
don't take it.
right.
But again, we're just giving you our experience, and because we wish we had women like us, when
Oh
we were coming up, probably would have
yes.
curbed a
Oh
lot
my
of our crazy
gosh.
behavior. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
during last week's episode, we gave you some signs and behavior that women need to be aware of, right? Or look out for if you plan on starting a committed relationship with a man that is going to be long term. So, this week, we want to give the fellas a few pointers and as well try to inform dads why it's unhealthy to raise daughters to be untouchable. Now, any of our
Mhm.
listeners should know I'm a daddy's girl without a doubt. And Shannon, I'm going to go ahead and tell on you
Oh
too
yeah,
in case
you
they
know
don't
I
know.
am. Yeah,
We
you know I
both
am.
fall in that category.
Oh my God. And I'm not ashamed. So for people that don't know, I go by Shannon, of course. Everyone, all my friends, family, whatever, they know. But my first name really is L, which is my father's name. And he never called me Shannon the entire time, that I've been on this earth. I was always L to him. And so since he passed in 2021, I've embraced my first name. So now
Aw,
everywhere I'm at, at work and everywhere, people are now calling me L, and they're like, what L? And I'm like, yeah, I'm L now. And I hate that I never embraced
embraced
it.
it
Well, I shouldn't
before.
say hate it.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say hate it, because of course my mother, even though she named me L, she called me Shannon. And so that made everyone else call me by my middle name. Um, but now I was always closer to him, and I know Sean, we have that connection with our fathers, that
And
we're
that's
just
so
daddy's
hilarious
girls.
because my name is Yvette, but I use Sean
Yep.
on the show because my father refused to call me Yvette. My middle name is LaShawn, but he would just call me Sean, and
Mhm.
that's how I can so that's really funny, and that's actually a unique
Yeah.
side of you. I guess we didn't know we had in common, right? That's
Right,
funny.
right.
So that's
Yeah.
why I use Sean because that's what my father called me, but I didn't
Mhm.
wait to embrace. I'm just kidding. He just called me Sean, and he did more than any. So my whole family calls me Sean. So
Yeah.
if you hear people calling me vet, it's because they just met me. It's a business thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or, it's just they just haven't been around my family. So, and I
Right,
can't
right.
even I gotta back that up because we had the interview with Tamara. Remember, she's called me a vet all of my life, but it's
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
I
there
went
are
into
people.
her family. I went into her family, you see. She didn't come into
Yeah.
mine. So that's
Right,
why she knew me
right.
from school and Yvette. So I end up living with her family. So they embraced Yvette because that's how they met me.
Mhm.
So for all
Yep,
these years,
yep.
she called me Yvette. But other than that, anybody close to me, it's Sean. So I get it. I
Mhm.
totally get it. So my journey as a daddy's girl was interesting, and not because he was my absolute most favorite person on the whole planet, but I mean that's true. But the fact is, it didn't have any effect on me as a woman when it came to relationships, and I'm so thankful for that.
All
He let me
right.
make my own mistakes, and he
Mhm.
patched me up when I got it wrong.
Mhm.
But his
Yep.
teachings is why I'm solid when it comes to bouncing back and trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every fall
And
that I've
that's
had was my own pickings.
mhm. Mhm. And that's the interesting thing, compared to our topic last week and this one. It seems mothers or women have a lot more influence. As close as you and I were to our dads, when which we both were, and we've discussed this. I mean, to the point where, a lot of people don't realize, but when my father died, it was like the end for me. I didn't care
Mhm.
about living myself. So to go through life and not have that, yes, he was my father, but he didn't control me the way mothers do their sons, meaning
That's right.
like our conversation last week, a mama's boy versus a daddy's girl. It's like, yeah, we're daddy's girl, but it's a different type of influence on your life, so to speak.
And now and in some cases though it's exactly the same. So you just,
Oh, give me
it's
an
just
example. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we
Give
just
me an
fell on that
example.
side of it. I don't know if the people will know who I know. But I'll give you
Oh,
an
oh.
example just in layman's terms. I have a girlfriend that honors and adores her father. He honors and adores her. And if daddy don't approve, she's not dating. That's what I mean.
Okay.
If
Okay.
daddy
Okay.
doesn't approve,
Gotcha.
like you get what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So in a sense, that's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. You know
Yeah,
what
it
I'm saying?
is. It is. Yeah.
And while he didn't influence like my dating life, let me make my own choices. Had I followed the advice he gave me when it came to dating and marriage, I probably wouldn't have had so many wounds either.
Mm.
And I will admit, once I stepped into that woman that he always told me I should be, I stopped allowing a lot of the foolishness and falling for the okie doke. But I will honestly say I stepped into it
Yeah.
way too late.
Yeah.
Once my
Right. Yeah.
choices started to affect my children, only once I had
Mhm.
children and my choices started to affect them, and then I realized,
Mhm.
like, daddy was right, you know? And I found myself digging out of situations that I should have never been in. So while he
Mhm.
didn't influence me, had I listened to the advice he gave me, he was always trying to lead me in the right directions, but he still gracefully let me make my own mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I think that's what I was trying to say, and you just said
Okay.
it a lot more
Okay.
gracefully. Yeah, fathers do allow more than a mother. More, us women, because we're women, we're a lot more overbearing, and it's like you gonna
That's
do what
true.
I say. Where father's
Yeah,
like, okay, I'm gonna tell you something, and I want you to accept it. I want you to go with it, but I'm not gonna beat you over the head with it. I'm hoping
I
you're
got
gonna
it.
hear
Right.
me. Yeah, so it's a softer message, or at least I feel it. And maybe because of my love for my dad, I'm just, feeling all this warm and fuzzy. But I just never took whatever he was telling me as I'm beating you over the head with it.
Right. You just took it as
Um,
solid. Now, I
yeah.
what I can say that I regret about being a daddy's girl is that he didn't hold me accountable enough. And I can admit that. Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
corrected me. He spanked me for sure, honey. He believed in the belt. But he would always give in. And for some reason, he went to war for me, even when he knew I was wrong. And I don't know
Mm,
if that was because I was his baby girl or it was just a parent at him. But
yeah.
oftentimes I made bad choices knowing he would bail me out,
Right.
which he
Right.
had a few times. I would set it up quick because I knew daddy was going to come get me. He's going to rescue me every time. But also with jobs and responsibility, I would tell
Oh,
somebody, quick
yeah.
girl, where you can go and how fast you can get there and walk right out. Because I knew he would pay my bills until I got another one, right? Now, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
He would say, you got to be smarter. You got to stop being so hot headed. You're a grown woman now. But I would pout, say, "I know," and I'm like, "They did this to me," and then I would just tell him
Mm.
how much my bills was, and he would just cover every time. It went like that, like a few times, right? And as I look back, that was just all wrong. So,
Mhm.
dads, please hold those girls accountable. I don't care how cute
Yeah.
they are, how sweet they are,
Yeah.
just as you do your sons. Because I'm telling
Right.
you, honey, he rained on the boys. But he was so gentle with us girls, and again,
Mm.
well, not as far as spanking, honey. He believed in the belt, but he gave us a lot more grace. Whereas usually it's opposite. You know what I'm saying? The
Oh,
fathers
yeah.
watch a girl like a hawk and they let the daddies run. I mean, the boys run wild. Well, it was just exact opposite in my family. My mom let the boys run wild and she watched the girls like a hawk.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
even if I didn't have, like, daddy in my if I didn't have him in my back pocket, I just think I would have thought twice about a lot of stuff that I did in life. So I can't say I
Right.
regret that.
Right.
And I remember
Yep.
this one time, Shannon, he was gonna teach me a lesson, and, I wanted to buy a new car, and I stomped off of my job, like, 2 weeks before, and I called, I told him I quit, and I called, like, a few days later. I'm like, "So, Dad, when can I go to the car lot and look for a car?" He's like, "As soon as you get another job." I was floored. I'm like, "What?" The audacity to lay down some rules, right? Well, girl, he hung up and called back like a couple of days later. "I'm gonna help you with that car this time, but you better learn how to be more patient. You can't go around quitting and creating bills." And girl, bye.
Mhm.
And I got my new car, but I tell you what, I quit one more job after that. I did, but after I had my daughters, I stopped with all the foolishness. But again, I did a lot of that knowing he would rescue me and he would save me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and for me, my dad, he didn't have the financial means to do, things that your dad did. But if I needed my dad to have my back for whatever, when you need that man to come in and be that menacing figure, or there was nothing he wasn't gonna do physically or whatever. Oh, I got you. I could lean on him if I felt threatened or scared. You know me, you know
Mhm.
he was always there for that. And so, where the money didn't come in, his physical presence and knowing, oh, let me call my daddy. I was one of them girls.
Yeah.
Okay, you were saying it. Let me call my daddy. And they're like, okay, she about to call her daddy. I'm out of here. So that was the good thing. I had him in my back pocket. Let me
And
call my daddy.
that's better
Uh-huh.
than money sometimes because guess what?
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't have that in my father, and I think I told you tomorrow that during the
yeah,
interview, he wasn't a
yeah.
lovey-dovey. He wasn't a hugger. Anything I thought I wanted, needed, oh, he got it.
Mhm,
Anything I
mhm.
could imagine that I need these. I told you about those
Mhm.
shoes. He didn't spend that kind of money on shoes, but for his baby girl, he did. But I did not feel
Right.
comfortable saying,
Right.
"Dad, this guy broke my heart. Can we come up and eat ice cream?" He
Yeah.
wasn't that father. Well, I got to go to work. I don't think he knew
Mhm.
how. It wasn't that he didn't. I
Okay.
know he loved me. I don't
Yeah.
think my father,
Yeah.
because guess what? His parents weren't. They were not those kind of people. My dad's side of the
Okay.
family did not know affection. So I don't think it wasn't because he didn't.
Ah,
So I think his money and taking care of me was his ice
what's his
cream,
way of showing it?
was
Mhm.
his way of saying, "Imma call my dad." So guess what? I couldn't
Yeah.
call my dad to come beat you up or run you out of here. But if you leave, negro, and leave all these bills, I can call my dad and he gonna pay them for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah,
kinda one
yeah.
and the same. It's kinda one and the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
had
or even yeah.
that was your father's contribution to you,
Mhm.
his emotional availability.
Exactly. And even from so far away, and as another interesting story. So I had a wonderful stepfather. Growing up in South Dakota, my mother and my stepfather were in the armed services, or my first stepfather, because people would listen to me and say, wait a minute, I thought your stepfather was Cuban. That was the second one, people. Second stepfather. The first one was the one that raised me, pretty
Mhm.
much in the Air Force. But he was still my stepfather.
Right.
And some people always say, we don't like to use step. We don't like to use step. And I get that. If that is the only person in your life, the only time I make, concessions is my father was there. I
Mhm.
had a
Right.
father. So
That's right.
I was not comfortable saying daddy to anybody else. But there was a situation where I was a teenager. I was probably 13. My older sister was 14. So that meant my little brother was about 10. And
Mhm.
we're in South Dakota, and you have to be in before, even down like down in the South or whatever, be in before the street lights come on, whatever. Well, my little brother, 10 years old, and it's South Dakota. We used to stay gone from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. No one ever cared because it was South Dakota. But for whatever reason, this particular day, my stepfather had a problem. And so when my brother got home, it was a little bit after the street lights came on. My stepfather lost it, and it became a huge deal. And he started, whooping my brother. And then my sister, who was had to be 14 at the time, she jumps in. So he starts hitting her and with the belt, and it becomes a big thing. And of course, what do? I'm in South Dakota. My father's in Charlotte, North Carolina. I run to the phone. I call my daddy. Call my daddy. My daddy, this guy is doing this or whatever. My dad's like, put him on the phone. And I put him on the phone. My stepfather gets on the phone, and I can only hear one side of the conversation,
Right.
except when my father started yelling, because my stepfather was like, L, L. And I could hear my father, L, hell, L, hell. And I'll never forget that to this day. I'm like, "Get
Hell
him,
yeah.
daddy, get him." But I'm sorry. And, no, I still got love for my stepfather. But that was
I
just an
know.
example of how I just went running for him, even though he was
And
3,000 miles away or
yeah,
however
and my
many.
stepdaddy is a good daddy. I love you, but guess what? Now, I still
Yeah.
got a daddy I can call. Now, in my
Yeah.
case, I told you my stepfather was the emotional. He was so I didn't have to worry about that. He was the
Oh, yeah.
he gave
Yeah.
me the love. He bought my pads and
Mhm.
tampons at the store. He picked me up because I was embarrassed because I got my period. That my stepfather was that for me. So it's kind of like I had,
Mhm.
but my stepfather didn't have a whole lot of money. He was just an average
Mhm.
working guy. So my father was an over the road trucker, and that's why my grandmother's family had, a few dollars. So that's why he was financially able to be there all the time. But my stepfather
Mhm.
didn't have that money, but he had the grace, he had the love. So I was really like, oh, I had the best of both worlds. But I'm telling you, I never really got to see that other side of my stepfather to call my daddy because
Okay.
he was just so cool and he was just so sentimental. But we all, oh, trust me, we had uproars.
Right.
But
Right.
he
Right.
he was more of a talker. But that is really funny. Like I
Yeah.
don't care who husband, I don't care if you use my mother husband. I'm calling my daddy.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that's good. Like me, I was married, Shannon, with 4 whole kids. When my father passed. But
Mhm.
if I still thought I needed it, I wasn't afraid to call or
Yeah.
embarrassed because
Right,
he left that
right.
door open. No matter
Mhm.
what, I was his girl, and he would always be there for
Yeah.
me and my children. And
Yep.
until he wasn't. But God left me.
Right.
So many other good male figures. My stepfather passed even before my real father. But I have two
Mm.
godfathers, one in Alabama and one even here in New York. And when I
Mhm.
remarried this time, my father was still alive in 20, but he was too sick to travel.
Okay.
So my godfather walked me down the aisle. And girl, no one in that service didn't realize my godfather wasn't my father who didn't know our situation. They said, "Oh, your father's so
Ah.
handsome." I'm like, that's my godfather. But that's how much love he
Yeah.
had for me. And you can't tell either of
Yeah.
those guys. The one in Alabama, his name is Tweet, and Reverend James A. Lewis the third. That's my stepfather here. They
Oh.
love me like their own daughter. So it's like even
Mhm.
after my dad was gone, God left me some love. And even, your dad is gone, but you have a stepfather. Like he takes
Yeah.
care of us. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
but the
yeah.
real fathers did their job in
Mhm.
saying, even when I'm gone, as women, we still know how to carry ourselves,
That's
and that's what
right.
love should look like,
Yeah,
even when they're
yeah,
dead and
but
gone.
but even when they're gone, but also on the flip side, so we got to get to a little bit of a more serious matter here before we wrap this up. So
Okay.
I know people, and I'm sure you do too, Sean, and I have a really, really close friend where, her father was her everything like ours, but in a different way, meaning he did everything for her to where she can't be in a healthy relationship with a guy because she's expecting the same. A
Mhm.
guy is not going to give you the everything on your whim, meaning he's not your a servant, where
That's right.
daddy, I want a new pair of shoes and he runs out and
Right.
get it. Daddy, you're on my command. And I have a friend like that where her dad is her he's her at her beck and call. And so she
Mhm.
thinks a man should be at her beck and call as well.
Yeah. Yep,
And
that's the
women, you have to
unconscious side of this.
understand. Exactly.
Mhm.
So when they said, I need somebody that's going to treat me like daddy, it's like, no, you got to understand what's healthy and what's unhealthy when it comes to what your father is giving you or doing for you. Not saying your father should not do for you.
That's a
And
fact.
by all means, if he can, that's great. But don't look to your husband to be that same person. He might provide in a different way. He might be an emotional provider. He might be he could be a financial provider, but he could also be all these other things that you don't
Right.
realize you're lacking in your life because you're so caught up into all of the material things that your father has given you. And I
It's
want
a
to make sure we
fact.
get that point across tonight as
Yeah.
well. You love
Yeah,
your daddy.
dads.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right. Just like it was nothing wrong with loving your moms, fellas, but just
Mhm.
dads, don't raise your daughter to be out of reach for a man. I think that's where Shannon is going,
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
out of reach for a man that would guide her, and not like Shannon said to the Louis
Yeah.
Vuitton, Vuitton or the Gucci store either. I mean, guide her
Right.
to the gates of heaven.
Right.
Lead her in love.
Mhm.
While our father, my father definitely gave me like
Mhm.
the finer things. He took care of me, but that wasn't the basis he taught me on how to value a man or a husband. You see what I'm saying? So, like I
Yeah.
said, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with daddy giving us those things, but
Nope,
that's not
not at
how
all.
I was taught how to love. He said to be
Exactly.
sure they respect you and treat you right. Those were
Mhm.
his core values when you're
Mhm.
deciding on a partner. He understood that money could always come later. And he certainly taught me to
Mhm.
make my own. You know what I'm saying? So he
Right,
wasn't worried
right.
about me being kept. He
Yep.
was more concerned with my soul, you know.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how it should be. You teach them what to expect from a husband by how he treats,
Mhm.
how he treated my mom or your wife. Even if she isn't the kid's mom.
Mhm.
A father should adore his wife and be an example for his daughter,
Right.
not a beck and call or not a credit card. I was even a little
Right.
jealous when my father married my stepmother because I'm like, wait a minute, what is going on here now? All this love is for me. But you know what?
Yeah, yeah,
He made sure to show me, even as his girl, that she came
yeah,
first. He
yeah.
never stopped being my dad. I just had a
Mhm.
place, and that was
Mhm.
after his wife. Okay,
Yeah,
and, and
yeah.
and though they were, they I was young when when my mom and dad were married. I was young when they divorced. He treated my mother the same way all of his days, like a man. So that's
Mhm.
what you should be seeing from your
Mhm.
father, not credit
Yeah,
cards. So that's a great
exactly.
point, Shannon.
Not
That's a
credit
great point.
cards. And too for a lot of us black women that are successful, that have made it on our own and we're like, I don't need a man because I got this financially. And you think, okay, I mean, you got to look deeper and a lot of the women they're like, "Oh yeah, I got this because my daddy always did," so
Mhm.
you're fulfilling, all these things that, I don't need a man to do this. I can do it on my own because if he can't do it, my daddy has showed me that I can do this or whatever. So you're still not looking at the complete you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Don't let the fact that your father was a giver, that's a great thing, but don't turn that into, well, if I can't get this from a man, I'm gonna go out here and make all this money, and I'm guilty of it. I have to knock on the door and say, I I was so guilty of it because I have been a provider for myself. I haven't had to
Mhm.
lean on anybody. I've done well. I'm in cybersecurity for, Pete's sake. So everyone knows what that means. So I'm like, okay, I don't need anybody. And my daddy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, no, no. In order to be in a healthy relationship with someone, it's not about what you have and what you don't need nobody to do for you. Nah. We got to get that out of our vocabulary and out of our mindset too. So you might be successful and you might be all these things that your daddy has built you up to be, but also recognize that, you know, you have to humble yourself. You have to be vulnerable. Let love in and don't let all of these things that you've built up in your head as they got to check all of these boxes because my daddy did it,
That's right.
or I'm going to check it for myself. It's like, oh, if they don't do it, I'm going to check it for myself and I'm going to live off all these riches and I won't let any other man in because I got it.
Yeah,
So,
no, we don't want to do that, women.
hmm
We need
yeah,
healthy, whole women. And we need
exactly.
healthy, whole men to produce healthy relationships. So just like
Hmm.
we told the mom, women don't allow daddy to create that kind of person in you. And dads,
Right.
when you do that, you run the risk of having your daughter and the woman in your life at odds too. Think about that.
Mhm.
What about you raise this kind of daughter? What happens when love come along for you again? If you're widowed, you got to think about all of that. It
Yeah.
can create separation and get a misunderstanding can happen easily. So that's why I say it's
Mhm.
okay to spoil the girls. It's okay. Just as it is okay, for moms to adore the sons and teach them the
Yep.
basics.
Yep.
But dad, show your girls what love looks like. That's the important thing here.
Mhm.
But don't teach them, to let objects be the main focus of their obsession.
Exactly.
Or
Right.
better yet, don't you become the object of their affection. Because just like
There
boys and
you
moms,
go. There you go.
sometimes,
Right. Yeah.
that have, strange relationships is weird.
Mhm.
It happens,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
we got to be careful of all that. And then Shannon, that was
Mhm.
a great point to bring across, before we wrap it up. But we'll leave you, with this and this topic of daddy's girls. Love your daughter's dads. Be gentle, be kind. Teach her, like I said, what love looks like. Be her first love, by God. As you've heard
Mhm.
Shannon and I say a million times tonight, our father was certainly our first love. But don't
Yeah.
raise her with standards so high that only money can reach her. Raise her to
Mm.
understand, that having the finer things in life is good, but be sure
Right.
she understands that they don't make anything expensive enough and that will hold her at night. Okay?
That's right.
They
Yep.
don't make anything expensive enough like the man God has chosen for her.
That's
So just keep
right.
the core values at the forefront when you're raising these daddy's girls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
now,
not
hmm
equate. I'm sorry.
no,
I
no,
know you're
no, you're
wrapped. I
good.
know you wrapped up.
No,
And
no,
not
baby,
equate
it's
like you
your
said.
world,
Nah,
baby.
you're so silly.
You brought out some
Not
good
e-
points tonight. Let's go.
not equate the material to their self-worth. It's
That's
like
right.
fathers are good for that, to say, okay, you're worth diamonds. Yeah, that's a good saying, but that's not literal. Come on now.
It's a
Yeah,
fact.
you're worth your weight in gold, baby. Yes, you are, but that's not literal. So come on.
That's
Let's
right.
keep it real.
Let's keep it real. Works every
Yeah.
time.
All
All
right.
right. So you done,
Sorry
baby?
about messing up your wrap up.
You fine. You don't mess up our wrap up,
Ah,
honey. We do this thing.
I
If you're
know.
done,
All
though,
right.
baby, we can move to the red line.
All right.
All right. Tonight's red line tip is that's your date, not your daddy. Ladies, it is nothing wrong with knowing what you want or your dad showering you with the best. But understand, that's who brought you into the world. And that's what he
Mhm.
chose to do. Be careful not to pass up a good man because they can't give you Chanel, Prada, or Gucci. Sometimes, you pass up a 9 to 5 good guy for name brands and end up with a man that can't even feed your soul. So you've got all these Gucci and Chanel bags, but you're hungry.
Yeah.
You're hungry inside in the
Mhm.
end.
Right.
You will find yourself right back at home with daddy because if you chase things, that's what will happen. Life will pass you by. And when you're too old
Mhm.
to read or recognize a Gucci or Louis V sign, daddy will most likely
Mhm.
be gone to glory. And you'll be left with a sad story of a love you used to know. Be wise,
Right.
ladies. If you want a man like daddy, that's okay. But be sure you're desiring dad's values, and not possessions. And
Right.
that's my red line.
Awesome. 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 That's a perfect red line.
Thank you, babe.
All right. So we are into our last segment for the night. And of course, it is the fictional family I am feeling. All right, so the fictional family I'm feeling tonight comes from Guess Who? The film with Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher, and of course my girl Zoe Saldana. I love her more than anything. But
I know. She's my favorite.
yes,
So
but
cute.
yeah, I know the scene I'm gonna talk about tonight is when um she of well, for people who don't know, she's black, or in the movie she's black, but in real life people know she's Dominican. But anyway, she's playing a black girl, and Bernie Mac is her father, and Ashton
She's very much
Kutcher
black.
is yeah. Yeah, and Ashton Kutcher, of course, is white, and so that's her boyfriend, and she brings him home, just like in the original version of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner back in the day with Sidney Poitier. But anyway, um, so she's having a conversation with her father, and she's talking to him about accepting her boyfriend. And she's telling her dad, hey, you don't see the looks we get, and you don't understand what we go through. I just need you to tell me that it's okay for me to be with him. Because her father was, of course, totally against him. And she's thinking it's all because of race. And it could have been. But when I watch this scene, I see something different. Of course, her words are saying, I need you to accept him. I need you to tell me it's okay for me to be with him. And in my opinion, she's trying to tell herself, you need to accept, girl, that he's okay. You need to accept that you want to be with him because your father's not out there with you when you're getting these looks from these people that you would a white man. He's not out there feeling what you're feeling, whatever uncomfortableness you're feeling because you're out with this guy. So you're begging your father to give you an okay for something you need to okay within yourself.
Mhm.
So, women, and this is just one example. So what I took from that is I don't care what kind of relationship you're in. If your guy is whatever you're dealing with, your father oh yeah, he could co-sign it, put a stamp of approval or whatever. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, you have to recognize what your heart needs and what you need for you. The same way last week when we were talking to the guys, when the guy stood up to his mother and said, "This is what I want." The difference here is she's actually begging for approval for something she needs to
She
be
doesn't
okay
need
with.
it. But yeah, she
Exactly.
doesn't need his approval. She just
Mhm.
needs to be okay with it. Like you said, you have to accept your situation.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
even if daddy doesn't approve it, if that's what you want,
Mhm.
then that's what you do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that is the fictional family that I am feeling tonight.
It's a great twist to that, girl. I seen that movie 1,000 times. I never thought about that, but that is absolutely true. It's something she needs to accept, whether her father
E-
accepts it or not. Of course, you want to respect your
Exactly.
parents, but in the
Mhm.
end, what we've said last week and this week is your life to live.
That's right. Your
Mhm.
life to live. And we hope you're happy living your life. Oh, and I forgot. Sorry, we went past the red lines without reminding everyone. Do we have one more or do we? What's this? October?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
have one more week to submit the start the October submissions, and like we can
Yes.
keep you can keep them rolling in, but the
Mhm.
October one will be 1 week from now, and then we'll just move on to the November ones, and then after the third week in November we'll move to December, but we're gonna
Right.
keep them all, so for future shows.
Yes.
So like I said, you may hear them, you may hear them along the way, but for October, just to be for the one for selected for October, you got about 7 days to get
Mhm.
them in, guys. 5, 6 days to get them
Yes.
in so we can get it edited and wrote up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want your $100 gift card, please send your red lines into wifey and baby mama at gmail.com. And we love reading those, like we say, every week. So please send them in and come get your
Yes.
money, people.
Come get your money, people.
All right. And that is our episode for tonight. We
Love you
thank you
all.
all and we look forward to next week. Yes. Love you all.
Bye.
I'm wavy.